So we always talked about AppLovin, and in AppLovin versus Google versus Meta versus, Google versus Meta versus AppLovin, like it's kind of like the overall MMM. And if you guys remember, we pulled up Triple Whale and we compared that to the Comfort Orthotics campaign. And so we made some changes this last week. And what I like to do is always obviously use our P&L. So I'm going to share screen. I'm going to hop back into here. Actually, am I still in? Yes, I'm still in here. Good. So let me just pull up in the Lifetimely app, and then we're going to go into Triple Whale. So we had a fun, lengthy conversation with a client. I threatened to fire him. I was like, hey, what am I doing here? kind of thing. And so I have a very, very bullish way of doing things. It is something that I truly believe this is the area where it gets into client management versus MMM. And that is very, very, very difficult to convince a client to do the shit that is completely opposite of what they're used to and completely opposite of what they pay thousands of dollars for a platform to tell them to do, like kind of each week and each month. So basically I said, hey, I think AppLovin is doing nothing but return customers. I think it is a return traffic. And so Triple Whale, being that it is an inferior way of doing attribution, is causing more confusion and doing more damage than good. So when you're looking at AppLovin and you say, hey, how is this doing? AppLovin is now known as Axon, probably because someone bought them. God rest their soul. That's a horrible idea. But as they bought this company, probably and changed the name, you can even see here where it's like, hey, we're going to take 32% out. And I'm like, we just got to keep reducing. We're now down to like 10K for this 4-day period. If we go over to the previous 4-day period at the beginning of the month, and this was actually spending 30K. So we basically reduced this thing by 66% in 1 month so far. So it was actually at the beginning of the month, it was spending 27 going up. It was spending like 30. It was like they were scaling it harder, and it was just not having a good top line performance. So I did a little digging and I said, you know what? I'm going to use a broken tool, the broken clock, but we're going to look for any sort of data that shows that AppLovin is actually not helping the business from a top line perspective, because year over year, if we compare this to the previous year, we can actually see, let me just pause camera real quick, everyone. Sorry. We can see that they've actually pulled out about 10 grand out of Meta, and they pulled out about 3 grand out of Google. And they put 30K into AppLovin, which is a 23% increase in ad spend year over year. So that one is, basically going to AppLovin at the beginning of the month. Now, if we look at the beginning of the month between like the 3, 4, 5, this is what we're looking at, or 3, 4, 6, I guess I should say 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's funny is we're looking at an increase in marketing costs, an increase in net sales, contribution margin was looking pretty good. And we're like, okay, keep scaling. And what's funny about this is over the previous period here. I was like, okay, we're pushing into Meta. Axon is pushing into 14% and Google's pushing into 2.3. So we have a 14% increase, but a 21% increase in Meta, and that had a good contribution margin. Now, fast forward to like this time period here, the 20th through the 23rd. This is the time period here that I said, hey, you guys are doing the exact opposite of what I'm asking you to do. I have to leave you guys. I'm so sorry. I can't help you anymore. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? We're doing it. And I said, well, the plan was to pull out of Axon and put it into Meta. Now, Meta only went up 2K. Axon was down by about 8K. And then Google Ads was only down about 1K. So the reallocation says we pulled out of Axon, but they did not put any money into Meta. That was October 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Well, 20th through the 23rd, this date range here, check out the contribution margin. The sales went down, the marketing costs went down further, but the CAC went up, the MER went down, the marketing costs went up, and now the contribution margin, now they are basically just like completely flat. They lost $86 because they pulled out of AppLovin, but they didn't push it into Meta. And I said, we need to push into Meta, we need to push into Google. And that was this last Friday. And this last Friday, I'm not going to do obviously today's date range because it's not over yet, but the next 4 days, we can see something completely different. And we can see the percentage differences after pushing in to Meta Now a 13,000% increase in contribution margin. Went from negative 86 to basically making $11,500 profit in 4 days. It's an insane amount. Now, the bad part is, though, when we look at what was going on from a top line perspective here compared to previous periods, there was a further reduction in Axon and then a slight push into Meta. But what you're not seeing here is this one was actually about 10K, but this is now up to 15. So it was a week over week period. So it's kind of jumping around a little bit, but the pull out of Axon and the push into Meta is helping the contribution margin, helping the net sales, helping the CAC, helping the MER, helping the marketing cost. Even though we're down and we're up, the delta here is heading down in marketing costs, heading up in net sales. The contribution margin is increasing, but it is actually coming at a top line. So a top line loss. So watch this. Watch this date range here, 24th to 27th, now compared to previous year. Now we're 37% down. 33% down orders, 35% down gross sales, 37% down. I said, what is going on? Like, why are you not pushing harder into Meta? You're pulling out money. So you basically saved yourself the 10 grand and pushed that into contribution margin, but at a sacrifice of a company. And they said, well, we were going to put everything into Meta, but we can't do it one-to-one. I said, why not? Well, we don't think it's a good idea. Okay. So if we don't think it's a good idea to push out of Axon and push it into Meta, we're going to sacrifice our volume. And we're now in an area of purgatory where we pull back spend. We still have the sales, but what happens if you pull back spend immediately? Your sales look good. Your contribution margin goes up. And then what happens to sales?
It all just tanks.
They start
because no more ad spend feeding the funnel.
Exactly. They start to decay. They start to decline. So it's a very, very interesting kind of case study that we're looking at, is basically pulling out so much money out of AppLovin and pushing it into Meta. But if we look at just like kind of weekend over weekend, 3, 4, 5 here, and this is how tedious this gets and how amazing spend level is to dictate the performance of a company versus anything else. We have in 3, 4, 5, we have 32,000 and 23,000. So it's just the reverse. 32 Meta, 23 AppLovin. So 32 Meta, 23 AppLovin. Now we have not 32 and 23. We have 32 and 7. So basically 32 and 7. So it's like, uh-oh. So if we compare this date range here, which is the 24, 25, 26, 24, 25, 26, and we compare that to the top line of 3, 4, 5, we're just basically down the money that we pulled out. It has not been reattributed. So Facebook is saying that it's doing a little bit better. Instagram is about the same, but Facebook is definitely getting better. But it is definitely coming at the expense of kind of everything else. So Google search is down a little bit, and this is how tedious everything is. Facebook is like down 38%, down 71% in YouTube. Instagram's fine here, but this reduction that they're experiencing inside of Facebook is not actually causing any sort of less efficiency. They're just not spending enough into it. And you can see that it is year over year down and week over week, or month over month down, because it's not actually producing any sort of net profitability. So this is how tedious MMM is. Spend levels dictate way more than your ads, than your keywords, than your conversions inside your platform, than your CPCs, than your positionings, than your search impression share. The adoption of top-line MMM dictated modeling, where the spend of the channel dictates the top line more than anything else, is way more powerful than I think people actually get to experience. So when we're looking at the differences in MMM, we have to look at a comparison over year and week over week, and those changes in terms of net contribution margin, profitability, and volume. Those are all things that have to be taken into consideration for a multimedia mix model. And so it was kind of something where I tried to fire the client on Friday, and then he's like, "Oh, let's keep going. We make a promise," and that kind of stuff. But this is something that even I struggle with, and everyone that I know that does kind of MMM modeling struggles with it, because you kind of have to ignore basically everything from like here over.
Yeah,
you just kind of have to like get rid of everything. But it is something that you can take off, basically going from 35 grand down to 7. You can, or 25 grand down to 7. You can basically hack off an entire channel in that kind of small time period, and you will lose your orders, but you'll gain your net profitability. And that's only because they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that is something that you can kind of see year over year. Last 30 days, year over year versus last 30 days, year over year here. It's not doesn't look too bad. It's like, 13% down and 12% in orders. So it's not terrible. But if you look at the dashboards here, this is where you can kind of see the spend difference. So we know we're 13% down. We're 25% down in Meta. We're 23% down in Google. This right here, when you're just taking a look at your numbers, watch this: 397, 548 minus 295, 323. So we got $100,000 loss in Meta. Okay. Now let's do the next one. Google, 172,806 minus 131,699. Now that's a 41K loss in Google. And then there was a 181,645 addition in Axon. So if you look at 102,225 plus 41,107, you have $143,000 out of social and search and 180 in to AppLovin. That is a total increase of 6.7% last 30 days year over year, 6% up. And they're now 13% down. So very, very, very simple. If we look at the lifetime of last 30 days compared to previous year, same period year prior.
Just to kind of simplify it even further, it's like if you spend more and you're not seeing more sales, what are you doing?
Right. It's
Where's the correlation there?
Your
it's
CAC's
pretty
up,
simple.
Exactly. Your CAC's up 30%. Your marketing's up 6%. Your MER's down 20%. Your net sales are down 15%. I mean, it's red, 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 red. Hey, if you like this video, we have a school community where we have a few hundred members and we cover topics, everything from the basics to all the way to the like hyper crazy advanced stuff that's like coming out next month. So a few hundred members there. We go live twice a week, something with an hour-long education about something that is very relevant to the community that week, plus a weekly Q&A where you just get to come and bring us all of your problems and we solve them one at a time.
So I have a link below in the description if you want to join. And then obviously if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we can answer those for you. And we'll see you in there.